With its ancient walls and riverside location, the city of York is one of Yorkshire's biggest tourist attractions. The River Ouse flows through the town, where it is joined by the River Foss. It was here that the invading Romans built a fortress and York's recorded history began. Other invasions were to follow: Angles and Saxons from northern Germany, the Vikings from Scandinavia, and the Normans from France. Now it is the tourists who invade, interested in seeing a city where to wander the streets is to take a step back in time, and where the turbulent history of the past is all around, reflected in the ancient buildings and narrow streets. The most magnificent building of them all dominates the town. York Minster is the largest Gothic church in Northern Europe. It is the fourth cathedral to stand on this site and took over 250 years to build after work started in 1220. There's been a Christian church on this site since AD 627. In 1967, work started on a massive restoration programme because it was feared that the main tower was in danger of collapse. During this work, the remains of the Roman fort that originally stood on the site were discovered. The chapter house is notable for having no supporting central pillar. Behind the minster is the treasurer's house. The earliest house on this site was the home of the minster treasurer until that role was abolished in 1547. In 1897, the present house was bought by industrialist and collector Frank Green, who restored the rooms to display his collection in accurate historical settings. In 1930, the house was gifted to the National Trust. Explore York and you will find some of the best preserved medieval streets in Britain. In the shambles, the butcher's shops that lined the street are long gone, but you can still see the house of Margaret Clitheroe, who was put to death for harbouring Jesuits and seminary priests. Dominating St Helens Square is the Mansion House, home of the Lord Mayor of York. Near the river you will find Clifford's Tower, the keep of York's medieval castle, built by Henry III. Below the tower, in a building designed by Horbury-born architect John Carr, is the York Castle Museum, which extends into the adjacent debtors' prison, where notorious highwayman Dick Turpin was incarcerated prior to being hanged. These buildings stand on the site of the original castle, and some remains can be seen to the rear of the building. The museum was founded by Dr. John Kirk, who collected an immense range of old shop fronts, vehicles and everyday objects rescued from demolition sites. St Mary's Abbey was founded in 1088, and the few walls that remain can only give an impression of the scale of what was the most important Benedictine monastery in the north of England. The National Railway Museum is home to a superb collection of railway vehicles, memorabilia and steam locomotives, like the world-famous Mallard, which recorded a speed record of 126 miles per hour. This replica of Stephenson's rocket travelled a bit more slowly. The first walls around the city were built by the Romans, but those we see today date from the 13th and 14th centuries. 4 medieval gateways called bars were built to command the main roads into the city. Wormgate is the only example to retain its defensive barbican. The main entrance to York was Micklegate Bar, through which monarchs would enter the city. Heads of major traitors or criminals would have been displayed here to discourage wrongdoers. York is a magnificent city with a lively, friendly atmosphere. An archaeologist digging a trench here would cut through 20 centuries of history, a varied and glorious history, no less rich than its people, descendants of all the invaders who came and ultimately made their homes here.